wants to try to reach up here and like grab anything. The Lord has this way of humbling me in that. I've hired you because I trust you, because your heart, you remind us that all the time. Because your heart for people, your heart for doing good work. What's holding you back? Go do your thing. So the really funny thing about the question right now is part of my focus today, right now as we were talking about this, is getting that focus. I have a life where I get up in the morning.
Number one.
Yep.
It's hard.
So hard. There you go. Yep. So hard.
Yeah. You got 2 more.
Yep. What were the, okay, next. What are the other 2?
All right. Peter Jaquist.
Greetings and salutations.
The small guy. We call him Tiny. We do behind your back.
Do you? Good.
Yeah. No, we don't. We don't do anything behind your back, dude. We're all afraid of you. 6'10"?
You should. You know I'm going to give you a hug. And it might be a very long, aggressive.
Yes, firm.
Air depleting hug.
Yeah.
Like an anaconda, but you know.
So really funny to sort of start it off. So Peter flies in yesterday, and it's like 185 degrees outside, and so we go and we're like, hey, Cash has got a baseball game, and so we go, and it turns out to be like a kids' parents t-ball kind of ball that we're playing with, and
coach is throwing the ball.
That's right. So Peter gets up there, all 6 feet 10 inches of him gets up there, and he very nonchalantly swings the bat. Like it almost looks like it's in slow motion. There's no way. And the ball never came down. In fact, I think it's still up in the air, and they're still trying to find it. It was the funniest thing. The kids were like, there's no way. He didn't even swing at that.
It was. Yeah. That was a good time. Thanks for including me. Family is so important.
That's right. The levers, baby, the levers. So I want to get to know you a little bit here. So
be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, right. I mean, why don't we start? Let's start with the easy stuff first.
Sure.
Your position within our organization and what it is that you're.
Yeah, so managing director for the Johnston office and the Ankeny office. So I get to oversee and help lead with some of the operational stuff, help with some of the coaching, onboarding, run our sales meetings, do a lot of sales training, helping our agents get just more proficient as sales professionals in real estate. That's a pretty high-level summary.
I love it. And so, born and raised in Des Moines?
Born and raised, baby. Grew up in Urbandale, lived in the Drake neighborhood for about 20 years, and then my wife and I just moved our brood of 4 out to the Adel Van Meter area here in the last couple of years. Piece of ground. And don't have chickens on it yet. But it definitely following a lot of homesteaders. Yeah. I think we're going to put the chickens here. No, the chickens there. We know that the HOA won't allow goats. So, anyway, so that's.
I always wanted one of those fainting goats.
Oh, yeah. You like, bah!
Yeah, and they just fall over.
Seize up and fall over. Yeah. It's a good humor.
All right, so you brought us there. Let's talk about your family.
Yeah.
So tell us about them.
Okay. So my wife and I will be celebrating 19 years together, married together, come July. And she is my best friend and the love of my life. I'll get emotional talking about her. So she's in the property management space. We do a hybrid school, so she leads a lot of our kids' education as well. So they're home some days, in class a couple other days. Just runs the household and says, go do you. But she's my bestie. She is my bestie all day long. So there's nothing more than I like to travel with her. And
that's awesome.
Got a daughter and 3 boys. And we're getting into the sports era, which is a little scary because I have friends that are like in it, and I see how much time they spend on the road. Not to mention the checks they have to write. So anyway, I'm preparing.
Motivated to make a bunch of money. I like that.
Yeah, right? Oh, yeah. It's like, okay. I don't know if any of my kids will get into hockey, which I'm a bit grateful for because that's a scary commitment. Yeah. With baseball, like, right
they
below
just
it,
disappear. For 4 months, they're gone.
It's wild.
Completely gone.
Yeah.
I have a funny story. So being in Sun Valley, Idaho, hockey was a kind of a big deal. And
sure.
I would see all my friends, they would just disappear for 4 months. And I remember telling Shannon, like, that sport's off limits. Like, we're not going to do that. And I was out of town, and a neighbor who had kids that were in hockey convinced her that she would loan her all of the gear, and Cole would get into hockey. And I remember being so mad. And thank you, Jesus, the stuff smelled so bad. And Cole got on the ice, and he stunk, and it was cold, and he couldn't skate, and he was like, I am not doing it.
And you went, oh.
Very disappointed.
Yeah, it's okay, buddy.
Yeah, here's an ice cream.
We'll find a sport that works for you.
And as far as Shannon is concerned, I didn't pay him $1,000, but whatever.
That's a great story about hockey. I love it.
So your different story, and I want to dig in a little bit on that story because, you know, oftentimes what you see is you see somebody that, you know, I'm going to say it, like they just need a job, right? And you don't actually need a job. And so if you have built great wealth on your own right, doing a lot of things right. And can you maybe share just a little bit with us about that journey? I know I'm asking you to take 25 years and compress it into just a few minutes, but
yeah. Oh no, I can compress it. Where do I start with that? So a little bit. I mean, so just getting a little bit further in the rabbit hole or behind the curtain, whatever analogy you want to use. Got into the commercial real estate space just about working on the 19th year now, and early on specialized in office and retail leasing, which was an interesting opportunity for me as a young man. I came out of the kind of middle class, upper middle class, blue collar space with my parents. I was homeschooled my whole life too, which also gives me an interesting kind of worldview and perspective on relationships and communication, and get in this commercial real estate space. And my broker, who I would still consider a dear friend, goes, "Hey, have you read Rich Dad Poor Dad yet?" I'm like, "No." So I read that. I also read another book called The Millionaire Next Door. And all this is like in my first year. And I take my first two, the intro course and the 101 course for CCIM. Right, so high school educated. I'm naturally a pretty curious guy, so I'm just eating this stuff up. And I'll never forget coming out of my CCIM class, 101, I took in Chicago. And I remember getting done with, we're probably like midweek coursework. So we're just into our first case study. And this is all with pencil and paper and a HP 10B2 calculator that you got to learn how to run. And I remember walking out. I had a family over there, so I don't usually look like a tourist. I know at that moment I looked like a tourist because I was this guy. I'm looking at these buildings and I'm looking at the windows and I'm doing calculations. I'm like, okay, I've got 75 windows this way and I've got 45 windows that way, like doing the office calculation and then wrapping my brain around the revenue streams that are coming out of these buildings. And I was flipping hooked. Got in a fender bender one time because I was busy looking at a building, like doing a calculation, and I got cut off anyway, ran into a guy. And let's see, I think statute of limitations is up. So, but that was the idea of wealth generation and legacy. Like that was really my first look at that. The legacy my father's leaving in me is also amazing in this space, but his is about showing up for people. My dad is one of the kindest, hardest working individuals I've ever had to know. And so that's what he's given me, and I get a lot of my attitude and my communication from my mom. Put that together with the learnings, and I'm like, oh, this is like a thing. So I would like to tell you that I was early into that space, but really was good for the first 10, 12 years, just working for other people, having a passion for it and how to build wealth with real estate, whether it was a shopping center, an office building, apartment building, and then helping little and medium-sized businesses find spaces that work for them and their culture. Just love that. You're always working with the CEO or you're working with operations, so you get this insight into what's driving the decision-making on this, which is, to say the least, probably the best paid education you could ever get when you are curious and you get to know these people. So fast forward here, 18, 19. So yeah, it's like 6-7 years ago. I finally hit a spot in my career, and then also with my wife's hard work at the same time, just going, what are we waiting for? Listening to a talk today, actually hanging out with Andy Elliott. One of the things he talked about was like, I made $500,000, and his word picture was, and it just went through my fingers. That resonated with me today. I was like, oh, that was me. Made a lot of money, and it was, I didn't have the discipline. I didn't have a vision for what I wanted wealth generation to look like. So anyway, lost patience with myself. So bought duplexes. We kept our first home and have been parlaying that into other investments. We got a partnership that's a real estate investment fund, invested in some shopping centers. That's over there, and then all the time trying to be a father and a husband and a friend.
But you've done an incredible job of building wealth through real estate.
Oh, yeah.
something that you had a front row seat in education through.
Oh, yeah.
And then you started to participate in investing in real estate, and now you've got a great portfolio that's paying the bills, which puts you in a really interesting position.
And I want to be fully honest, because who knows where this goes out into the ether too. My wife is still working too. It's great. Yeah. I mean, it's a team effort.
Well, of course, yeah. But it's put you and your family, and we always talk about this business is not like you go to work. The entire family goes to work. We all know that you can't work 40 hours and expect to get ahead. You got to work 60, you got to work 80. That's what we do. 40 gets the bills paid, 80 gets like really growth. And so it's a family business. So I get it, and I appreciate the fact that you clarified on it. My next question to you would be, all right, so based on that wealth, here you are, being able to get to choose to go to work and where you go to work, doing what you want to.
Yeah.
Talk about what kind of freedom that is to be able to make those decisions differently, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's the first time we get introduced through some friends, and the first time we meet, and I realize right away there's some language similarities around values. I'm not bashful about my faith. I don't always lead with it, but my faith, my commitment to being a follower of Jesus, which if you get to know me, I will tell you, being married to my wife is the second best, hardest thing I've ever done, only to being a good disciple of Jesus. And then thirdly, it's being a father. Fourthly, it's learning how to be the best real estate professional I can be. That would be the order. So as you and I talk, and I've been talking like that for years, and then we sit down, and I think one of your lead, I hope I'm not making this memory up, but we sit down in that little hotel dining area, and we only had a few minutes, and you're like, so here's the deal. My foundations are faith, family, fitness, and finance. If you focus on the first three, the finance happens. How does that sit with you? I was like, did that guy just say this? I wasn't that concise with mine, but it's like, all right. I remember going home to my wife, and then we talked about the role a little bit and what you were looking for in a team member. And I remember going home to my wife, and I'm like, well, if we were looking for a group that has like a platform, has a passion for changing lives this way with these values, I think
That's powerful stuff.
Yeah, it is.
So not having to have a job, right? And I don't want to overstate anything, but like you get the idea, right? I don't have to have a job, and I certainly don't have to have just any job. Where was your mindset and your heart set to tell somebody else, right? Like, hey, listen, I'm one of those people that I'm not going to retire. Like, that's just not in my DNA. I don't want to have to work. I want to work, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you've earned the right to be able to have a job that you want. What kind of freedom is that for you?
What kind of freedom is that for? I've never thought about that question like that, Todd. I mean, I show up because I want to, right? So the freedom in when the alarm goes off in the morning, do the family things, when I'm disciplined that day, getting the workout in, making time for the kids, and then showing up at the office, whether we're doing a sales meeting that day, whether I'm building new relationships with other agents, right? So as a managing director, just making sure that when my agents are working with other agents, there's a relationship there. It's still very much a relationship. And there's a connection. I do that because I love it. I have described my role this way here, just in the last couple of weeks even. Like, what do you love about it? I'm like, well, I'm in a position, so I'm in an industry that is arguably the oldest way to build wealth. You don't necessarily build the most wealth historically through real estate, but through time, this industry has made more millionaires. It's got to be at least the top three. Yeah. Somebody's going to Google me on this. But I would say top three ways to build wealth, become incredibly successful through discipline. So I'm in that industry. So whether I'm talking to making new best friends who are thinking about getting into the industry, or they're currently in the industry and they're looking for a better partnership to do that, like that's what I get to do. Yeah. I get to build those relationships.
And I will be honest, when I see you and I hear you, the sense that I get from you is that you just have a genuine joy about going to work.
Oh, yeah.
Part of that is because you get to, you don't have.
100%. And that's not just because you're my boss.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about faith for a second, because you brought up the four foundations, right? So how does faith fit into your leadership?
Well, my latest meditation, and I say latest, man, I've been chewing on this for years. to say latest. So grew up in a conservative home, homeschooled my whole life. Had the thing in my late teens and 20s where I went, oh, this thing is like this is my parents' deal. So I kind of had to do my own little journey and testing the truth of it and search it out, and got to where I am. And it's a daily learning, right? Like there's the moment I think I have it figured out, and any kind of like dogma wants to try to reach up here and like grab anything, the Lord has this way of humbling me in that. But from a leadership standpoint, reconciling my faith in leadership, where the barometer is Galatians 6. So the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. When I think about leadership, it's how do I exhibit all those things, all while having a really solid grasp on where we are today and where we are going. How do I help my current team members? How do we help new team members and do all of that? I mean, negotiations, like how do you do the business of real estate and still demonstrate those qualities? Again, with it being the barometer. So if I don't have joy, I'm not being patient, I'm not being kind, it's a barometer for me. There's nothing wrong. Jesus hasn't changed. God hasn't changed. I'm the one that's not doing it right. So that's where it comes out for me, is going home and looking at the barometer and I do today, Lord.
That's great.
And making corrections. And sometimes friends correct me. Yeah. Hey, dude, I heard you say that thing, or you did that thing. And it's like, that don't work.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's like it's the drumbeat, right? It's the pulse. It's what keeps you grounded. And we talk from a leadership perspective. Leadership is very interesting, right? There are some people that are in leadership because of ego. There are some people that are in leadership for money. And there are some people that are in leadership and obviously, when we talk about our faith, Jesus was in leadership for people. And so
something about global eternal impact.
Something like that. Like, dying for everybody's sins. But something like that. But the idea that you can use that as your guiding light, it helps us to fight off, I guess, the evil and the greed and really focus in on him.
I love that you use the term fight off. Yeah, there's definitely, I mean, I've got one as much as the next guy and have to be reminded. And if I don't remember, like I mentioned before, the Lord will remind me.
Yes. Yeah.
I pray gently. I usually
carefully.
Please gently, carefully. If I miss something, but
So you are and have shown that you're very entrepreneurial.
Risk taker.
Yeah, risk taker. We talk about all the different things, but an entrepreneur is built different, right? They like the flexibility. They like the creativity, all of the things that go into that. Risk, of course, being part of that. Why have you chosen to work?
So finding a group of people that have one or two commonalities with you in the same industry, that in itself is a blessing. I mean, when we started to get to know each other, I was talking to other teammates, friends, was introduced to other people within the company and what you're trying to do, what you have done in this industry that I already love. Anybody that's met me, the real estate industry is three things: it's people, it's problem solving, and you get to deal with this amazing dynamic that those things create every time. Everything's a little the same. It's also a little different. And then I meet a guy, and he goes, "Well, these are my priorities. Here's what we value as a company. Oh, by the way, here's the toolbox we're using EOS, something I'm very familiar with." Like, you just look at it and go, "Oh." There was no decision. It was just like, oh yeah, this is, if Peter is going to get up every morning and sacrifice my time and my flexibility with my family, or choosing to do something else that's entrepreneurial, I better have alignment on the stuff that's most important. We've got that. And I'll say this too, over the months, as we're working together, and of course we've got Jeff Renovere, who's an amazing leader and helper, all the things that he needs. Having the flexibility to be an entrepreneur, right? To be challenged by you guys as you work with me and some of my other comrades who are managing directors, and just be like, hey, you guys treat it very much open-handed. I hired you because I trust you, because your heart, you remind us that all the time. Because your heart for people, your heart for doing good work. What's holding you back? Go do your thing. And really encouraging us to be entrepreneurs in our own.
Awesome. Love it.
It's 100% real.
So you hear a lot of people talk about why. I don't even. What's your focus? What gets you out of bed? If you had to come up with one or maybe two, what is it?
So the really funny thing about this question right now is part of my focus today, right now, as we were talking about this, is getting that focus. I have a life where I get up in the morning, make the cup of coffee, let the dogs out. If I'm being aware of my my surroundings, I'll help with the laundry. Fold a load of laundry, get the boys up, do the things. If I'm talking to me 25 years ago, I've already surpassed the dream that Peter had for him. This is something my wife's really challenged me on recently. Was like, hey, what? Because she could feel it in me, like as we're working. Because I'll have days where I'm just kind of like, I think how my friends perceive it is kind of like a meh attitude. And where are you going with this? Like you're young. Like where are you going with this? And I'm like, I'm trying to figure that out. Like I reached this level in my faith, my family. I'm working on the fitness thing, thanks to you.
Yeah. July 23rd.
July 23rd. Everybody, look for some posts. Don't look for some. It's not going to happen. Let's just be clear. Those posts are not happening.
That's right.
On the finance side, today is learning how to create this vision for my family and really pursue it. And I love that. The pursuit of understanding, learning better how to be accountable has become something that I'm really leaning into. And so the wild thing is, right, so you asked me that question, what's getting you out of bed? So the really wild thing about the role that I have today is I get to get up in the morning. Peter, in a very self-centered way, can be like, okay, what's going on here? Where are we going on this? What are my numbers? What levers do I need to pull? Who's involved? How do we lead this thing? And then at the same time, I'm making new friends and working with my existing agents to work through the exact same stuff. So if somebody asks me that question, I'm like, oh, this is great. I gotta work through this. And I just pivot. Hey, so what's getting you out of bed in the morning right now? If you're gonna talk to yourself in 5 years, what do you want them to know? And so I get to do that.
Isn't that crazy? That's literally leading by example. And that's the pressure that we should all feel as leaders. It is not to have the answer, it's to go find the answer and live the answer and experience it. And that way, you're not telling people what to do, you're just telling them what you've done, and they get to learn.
And this is just kind of frosting. So then, in being a part of a platform that we are, with all of the resources, both from a support standpoint, the resources from all the technology, all the trainings, it's out there. And so somebody comes to me and goes, hey, I don't know how to do this thing. I'm like, well, here's how I might do it. Oh, by the way, here's a 45-minute webinar that you can watch through this platform that we have, whether it's through CB corporate, whether it's like, oh man, you got to sign on this Friday. We're going to be doing some training on this thing. Or, oh, by the way, practicing sales skills with with 3 or 4 agents on Friday morning. Got to show up. I get to do that. And the wild thing is I'm helping them grow in this space, help them get a vision, build wealth. And at the same time, I'm teaching myself. I don't know.
I love it. Yeah, it's part of the journey.
I feel like I got a life hack.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that is the life hack, right? Yeah. Is that they are our experiences and our ability to share those experiences to compress decades into days and help people to avoid much of the pain that you've experienced in your journey. That's the gift. God gave us these gifts, and our gift to God is what we do with them. All right, I'm going to hit you with the 1, 2, 3. You ready?
I'm ready.
It's the combo.
Okay.
What's one thing that we don't know about you?
One thing you don't know about me. Well, you just learned this the other day. A lot of people don't know that I got ran over by a car once. So I'll share that. That was a fun little experience.
Yeah, well, ran over by a car and got up and went and watched a movie.
Yeah. So, okay, so here's a really common, actually, no, I'll say this. This is interesting, right? So people will get emails from me or I'll call them. They'll see me in social media. And the first comment I get when I show up is, oh, I didn't know you were that big.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I'm working on the expansion project. That's a reduction project. Redistribution project for sure. I want to keep up with my kiddos. But I'm 6'10". I mean, gravity's probably done its work. So the really, really true answer is like I'm 6, probably. But yeah, so I'm 6'10". So usually I walk into a space and everybody's like, oh,
yeah,
oh, you're a thing.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
I don't mean that any other way other than like, oh, you fill up a door, right? We're doing agent open houses. I love that because I'll go into the basements of resales that we're building back in the 70s and 80s.
It's a 7-foot ceiling.
Yeah, 7 foot, 8 foot. Yeah, okay. That's easy.
So you got run over by a car.
Yep.
One question I didn't ask was, how's the car?
I don't know. She left. So I got up. She ran me over. A young lady with probably high school. It was opening night of Mission Impossible 2, so I'm dating it a little bit. And I was rollerblading irresponsibly through a theater parking lot, and I couldn't stop. She didn't see me. I slid out. Car goes over me. And I got up and went up and like knocked on the window. She's like nails embedded in the steering wheel, crying. All of her girlfriends are screaming. I'm like, I'm okay. You can go. And they like look at me real slowly. I'm good.
There is so, wait, hold on.
Yeah, so can you imagine me knocking on your window too?
6'10" on rollerblades.
On rollerblades.
Okay, so hold on. 6'10" on rollerblades. That, like those two things don't go together. And then, so you're not 6'10", you're like 7 foot.
Yeah, 7'3", probably.
And then I didn't see you. It's like missing a truck, right? Like
it was more of a timing thing. She was coming, and I'm like, I probably slid right. Like maybe she saw something off to the left a little bit as I came flying in. Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah,
clearly you can hear my voice. I hold no malice towards her.
Oh no, I know.
I was the irresponsible one flying through.
I have never met anybody that's still alive and been run over.
Oh well, there you go. True story.
2 things that you want to make sure that your wife.
Oh, you're gonna make me cry. That I want to make sure that she knows.
Yeah, always and once like that. Oh. These are the 2 things.
I'll die for her. She's my why. Marriage, second best, hardest thing I've ever done in my life. 19 years. She is my bestie. Yeah. I mean, it's 6-7 times a day. I want to make my wife proud. That's as real as it gets.
Deep breath.
Yeah.
All right. Number 3.
Okay.
The 1, 2, 3 of the combo. 3 things that you wish every real estate professional.
So for our friends out there who are considering it, or they've made it through the licensing process and they're just kind of stepping into it. I hope you have somebody that really cares about you and is telling you how hard, because people, problem solving and money, take the problem solving aspect out of it. Like let's say you don't know anything about the problem solving in this space. Money does weird, whether it's family, whether it's your best friend, money gets involved. It can be $25, it can be $25,000. And a relationship that you thought was solid just gets swirled around by dollars and cents, man. It'll have heartstrings on people that you don't even know until it's there. And it is very, very hard, very hard. And whether you're on the commercial side or the residential side, you're dealing with a very large asset to those individuals in any given space. And so just saying that, like, the heartstrings are there, like it's hard. You will be on the receiving end of some kicks and punches and some scratching and some hate, all while you're trying to do a good job helping people steward what God has given them in this space, sometimes through hard circumstances, right? A loved one's been lost, or divorce. Like, you'll be a psychologist to a certain extent in relationship. Like, it's hard. I could go on about how hard it can be.
Well, and just to add to it, right? Like, we talk openly about the fact that 87% of the people that get licensed don't make it, and of the remaining 13%, the average make $43,000, and yet you are here to risk everything as a micropreneur, which is what a real estate professional is. Like, that's not why we get into it. Well, you don't want to be average. You don't want to be better than average. You have to be elite.
Yep.
And it's so hard, and making sure that you've chosen the right partner that will be honest with you, that will give you the right skills, love you when you need to be loved, and kick you in the booty when you need to be kicked in the booty, so that you can be one of those elite people. Like, that is priceless.
Well, so let me postscript that. Solopreneur versus entrepreneur. This was a statement that I heard. Actually, I was back earlier in my story talking about how we started pulling the trigger and investing and building wealth. Solopreneurs, if you leave, go on vacation, you're out of business. Entrepreneurs are able to build something where they can go on vacation. And I did not have, I'll quantify this, I may have been too young and immature to understand what was being said to me at the time, but the way I look back on it now, and I'm like, I didn't have anybody teaching me how to be an entrepreneur when I got into this business. Setting me up for success. I had to do everything. I had to be my marketing. I had to be my graphic designer. I had to run my CRM. Social media wasn't around when we started this, but as that started happening, figuring that out, I had to be the solo Lone Ranger, do all of it. I didn't ever have anybody come alongside me and show me how to do it out where it can scale, keep me in my own skill sets, like understand myself well enough to go, hey, this is where I thrive. This is where I find joy. keep me in that, how to hire for those skills, like, or how find a team. Like I didn't start understanding that until I started doing my own self-exploration. I bet 10 years into the industry. And I started looking for it. And if you look for it, there's ways to learn this stuff. But you got to, best thing ever is getting onto a team of people and surrounding myself with other people that go, how do we scale this thing? How do we grow this thing? How do we have the best team in place so that we can keep that individual, whether they're a sales agent, whether they're in transactions, whether they're title, marketing, whatever, like keep them in their skills and like thinking about it that way. Like that's critical.
Number one.
Yep.
It's hard.
So hard. There you go. Yep. So hard.
Yeah. You got 2 more.
Yeah. What were okay, next, what are the other 2?
3 things. I don't know.
Oh, it's the 3 things for the real estate agent. Okay, 3 things. Everything takes longer than you think it should. So be ready for that. Put on however you get the spiritual gift of patience. Back to this money thing. It's going to take longer than you thought. And maybe I'm stressing the team aspect of this a little too much, but being on the right team that can help accelerate that process for you, shorten the gap a little bit, but it's going to take longer.
Yeah.
I'm speaking to the newbies again on that, I think, a little bit as well. I really have.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. So there are the newbies, but there are also the ones that have failed to launch. And you're really talking about the ones that are, even if they're like, hey, listen, I've had some, I did $40,000 of income or whatever, like it's still not enough. Like that's not the life-changing
should be 4 or 5
experience that people
6 times
should
that.
have. Yeah. It's funny, we were talking about this the other day where everybody is in search of the one thing the successful folks have. And
failure.
And it's actually what they don't have, and it's quit. They just don't quit. They just keep going and going and going and going. And even if they're not great at it, and they don't have some special skills or magic, they outlast the competition.
Networking.
And they get through the darkness. So many people quit right before it all happened.
That checks out.
All right, so that's
back to the patience.
It's harder and it takes longer.
I want this third one to really.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, here's the funny thing, right? I'm going to say a thing, and just prayerfully in this moment, I'm just going, I hope it's probably just meant for 1 or 2 people. Choose your friends wisely. And this is both on the personal side and on the professional side. There's a lot of people that see the real estate industry, how do I describe this, with lights, glamour, and all that. In the marketing space, it is. Like, it's this beautiful thing. But it is a shark-infested waters. And so choosing whether it's a team, it's a mentor in the space, it's a coach in the space, and then even your friends as you're growing your own business. Lord willing, you see success. You grind it out. You work hard. You learn the things that you need to learn. You've been following Warren Buffett's advice. The best thing you can invest in is yourself. You're investing in yourself. You're reading. You're learning. You're being coached. You're doing all those things. As you see success, there will be people that will find ways to kick you and keep you down. They don't care how. Once you're successful, nobody cares how you got successful. Like, they'll just forget that. So choosing your friends wisely on the personal side is really important. And then on the professional side, finding somebody or individuals who genuinely care about you, period, full stop. Your hopes, your dreams, what drives you, all this stuff, and will tell you the hard thing. Like, well, you say that, but then you do this other thing that doesn't line up. What's up with that? Because those two jive. So you're either lying to me about your vision, or you're lying to yourself, which is even worse. Like, having people close to you that will do that, that's really hard to find. I've met a lot of people in my career. I bet maybe 10 people in my entire personal and professional life have ever been those people where they've like, hey, Peter, you said that thing. And they like point to my heart and like, I know you, that's not you. Or you said that thing and I saw that you didn't do it. You didn't follow through. You lying to me, you lying to yourself. Like, it's hard to find people that will do that for you. It's hard, takes longer. Choose your friends wisely. Choose your friends wisely.
That's some priceless advice from Big Daddy right there.
I'm sure somebody else has said this.
I'm not sure that they're inventing new ways. I think there are new people saying similar things in slightly different ways that land with different people. And that's why it's so important for all of us to recognize that we literally are all leaders, and we all have an opportunity to change somebody's life with just one thing. That we don't be bashful and do it anyway.
Do it anyway.
I love it when you were talking about the your circle is how I say it, right? Choose your inner circle wisely.
Oh yeah.
Because what's interesting is when, this happened to me, and it happened to somebody that I was related to, right? So I got into the real estate business, and I remember thinking to myself, well, like my family's going to use me, right? Yep. And I can remember this person telling me, well, like, why would I use you? Like, you don't even know what you're doing. It's like, wow, all right. I've been successful in other businesses, and I mean, I don't know, I think I can do it. And then, of course, I had success. What that person, then, of course, I was the one. I was the chosen one. Oh, I always knew you were going to make it out.
Like, I don't think that's what
Yeah.
you said before.
Well, but what's interesting, though, right, is that happens in all different ways. They are the ones, whether this person's heart was in the right place, they were just trying to protect me, or whether they were trying to protect themselves, or whether they were just being an asshole. Like, who knows? Don't know. Like, I don't know their heart. You will get shade for, like, who do you think you are that you're going to go and you think you're going to get into real estate and you're going to be a top producer and you're going to change all these people's lives and all these things. They will judge you on the way up. But once you get there, they will accept your invitation to dinner, to the games, to all of the fun, to jump on the airplane, all of those things.
They'll judge you.
They will do it. They may still talk behind your back, right? But you got to be eyes wide open. There are probably 5 people in the world that will genuinely, without any reservation, cheer you for success. And when you achieve it, be genuinely happy.
It is wild.
Wild run.
And it's interesting you say 5. Like it's a rare individual that you meet in your life where it doesn't matter what socioeconomic strata you're in that can genuinely.
The good news is that this business does not care. It does not care where you were raised. It does not care if you had trauma or drama when you were growing up. It does not care what your political slant is. It doesn't care anything about your past.
Nope.
It literally gives everybody the same opportunity to completely and totally change their lives, the lives of their kids, the lives of their communities, and so on. It is one of the most spectacular businesses I've ever been associated with.
Wild.
Dude, it's been awesome. Thank you for being here and giving us all an opportunity to get to know you a little bit better.
Thanks for the good questions.
I tried.
I'm honored.
I tried. Big Daddy, dude.
You succeeded.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, dude.